there's a lot of competition in general for our attention. And I don't mean that specifically in like the comic book space. I mean that in a broader sense, whether it's movies, TV, like short form content like TikTok and YouTube, podcasts, whatever. You've got such a limited amount of time to grab a hold of somebody and get them committed to your content. And I think that competition is not going to go away, nor is it going to get any better. I think it's only going to increase as more and more content becomes available. We are all day, every day assaulted by content, and finding the right thing for you and choosing something to stick with. It's a lot different than it was even 10 years ago. And I think that's I'm gonna let you kind of get into the real like specificity of why I'm saying that as it relates to our topic today. But I think that's the best I can do to tee it up for you to bring us into today's topic.
Damn, that was a very good lead-in. So this is I apologize in advance, listeners and watchers. This is one of those esoteric, Matt, really nerdy comic shop conversations I want to have. But today I wanted to talk about...
I can dig it.
I want to talk about attrition in regards to the comic book market, and primarily from the realm I'm taking it from is more the local comic shop, because that's what I'm about. I shop at the local shop. But attrition. I love the word attrition. I just think it's a great word.
You've said it about 4 times already.
Yeah. So I want to give I want to give a definition of attrition. So attrition is the action or process of gradually reducing the strength or effectiveness of someone or something through sustained attack or pressure. That's the Webster definition of attrition. What we're going to be talking about is declining sales or orders on a comic. Like, it'll have a big number one release, but then after that the numbers start to dwindle. So that's what I want to kind of talk about, and like why that is important, or that's a thing. I subscribe to a newsletter called Sketched. I've mentioned it before, and they talked about this, and that's where I kind of got a lot of these ideas from. And I just thought it was really interesting and like something I don't really think about very much. So I listened to another podcast called Contest of Challengers. They are very like nerdy and into the comic book industry, and like they talk about final order cutoffs and all that like nerdy stuff that I like. But they're in this article that they did on Sketch, they actually went out and interviewed a couple comic shops, and Challengers is one that is mentioned a lot, that they interview a lot for these kind of things. So when they interviewed Challengers, and Challengers in Chicago, and it's a pretty big shop, when they interviewed Challengers, they said historically there would be a drop off, or there would be attrition from issue 1 sales to like issue number 2. Like they would cut their orders by like 50%, or their sales would go down 50%.
Yep.
Now they're saying it's more like 80%. And there's another shop, Cape and Cow, which is a big shop out in Oakland. They used to do like a 20% cut, like their sales would go down about 20% from that number 1 issue. Now it's just so unpredictable, they don't even know. And that's where the problem kind of comes in. It's not that there's attrition. Attrition is something that has always been in comics, always something that's going to happen. And comic shop owners like know and recognize that. But it's like it's becoming so unpredictable nowadays. It's tough to order. That's why I'm a big pre-order guy, and Dave obviously does pre-ordering as he gets his comics mailed to him. But I have to recognize, like, a lot of comic fans, and the average comic fan does not pre-order. They just walk in and they expect comics to be there on the shelf. And if you're not pre-ordering, it gets really difficult for these shops to, maintain their customer base and have products for their customers. A lot of them, comic shops, mom and pop shops, or it's a very relationship focused thing. And you want to have a good relationship with your customers, but it makes you look kind of negligent if you don't have the product to sell to people. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not Marvel and DC. They don't see Marvel and DC. They see you as the comic shop.
So
I've ruffled
I,
Dave's feathers, so I want him to
not
go.
ruffled, but I want to challenge one thing that you said, which was
Sure.
that most people that read comics are just walking off the street and not pre-ordering or doing a pull list, and I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I think your business, let's say you own a comic shop, I would say, I'm just guessing here based on my experience working in comic shops in the past, but I would say that of your comic sales, probably 75% of your comic sales are coming from less than 50% of your customers, because the people that are pre-ordering are your heaviest purchasers, and they're making up the lion's share of what you're selling.
Can you say that one more? 75. Would you say
I'd say
70
that somewhere like
percent
75% of your
your
comic sales are coming
sales?
from less than 50% of your customer
Okay.
base.
Okay.
Because you've got a subset that are doing pull lists or pre-orders that are heavy purchasers. They're the ones that are buying the most of what you're selling. But I think that also, and I don't have stats to prove that.
Yeah.
This is just my guess based on some past experiences. But
Yeah, and that's what I want to
um,
talk about, experiences. So
I think that that is why you've seen the drop off of, from one first issue to not getting a lot of issue 2 or 3. And I've been guilty of this in the past where I'd pre-order number 1 just to see if I like it, and then if I do, I'll go hunt down the others. That's why famously, a comic shop near and dear to our hearts had the reputation of always, not having enough number 2s or number 3s or whatever, because they planned their orders around that drop. They knew then what was going to happen. Obviously, a lot of shops do that. Um, and I have a friend that I used to work with. We actually we're not friends now. We haven't kept in touch, but there was a point in time where he told me, he was like, "Dude, all I do is order every single number 1 issue that Image puts out every month, and
dude,
just
right
whatever
on.
sticks."
Okay.
I'm sure he's not the only one that's been doing that.
Every number one from Image though, like that's, oh my
Every
gosh.
number 1 issue.
That's crazy. I mean,
He was
people definitely
crazy.
do that.
I mean, this dude also went and bought, like, he has a full run of Invincible in like triplicate. Like, he has 3 full runs plus.
Wow.
Like, basically
How
anytime
did
he
he
was in a
go?
shop or something, if he was looking through bins and they were like dollar bins or like discount bins, if there was an issue of Invincible in there, he bought it no matter what. Didn't matter. He just bought cheap Invincible comics every time he saw them. And over time, he had to do a couple of like hunting for type of issues, but
Yeah,
over time he accumulated 3 full runs of Invincible.
that is, I mean, that's crazy and awesome.
Yeah.
And if he ever wants to sell one of those runs, he probably can make some decent money off of it. Maybe, I don't
Absolutely.
know. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's cool. That no, that's great. So I that was a mental misstep. I guess what I was trying to say is not maybe all or most, but there are a lot of people who do not pre-order comic books.
Yeah.
Is what the point.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I
So
agree. Yeah, no, I agree.
You're good to stop me incorrect. There's a lot of people that don't, and then they get frustrated and upset when you don't have the thing that they want. Like, or especially like they want a specific cover, yet you didn't pre-order it, or they get
Yeah.
upset when a hot or key issue comes out and the comic shop doesn't have it for them. Like that's
That's that old GameStop. Oh, you should have pre-ordered
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Should have pre-ordered it.
yeah, and definitely. I mean, some comic shops like, yeah, like if you like Thor, you should probably pre-order it if you know that's something. If you know that is something you truly want, we are Invincible fans, and you know you're going to pick up Invincible. You should probably pre-order it and guarantee it. But if it's something you're so, you don't have to. So that's,
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about that and the pushy pre-order and the pushy LCS guy and all that stuff. But yeah, like you kind of don't have the right to get upset, in my opinion, if like you don't pre-order something. Like you can't get overly pissed off. I mean, you can, but whatever. But
So
what
that
else?
sorry, I'm just
Oh,
thinking.
this
I'm
is
just
good.
thinking, and I'm wondering if really the problem is that person that doesn't pre-order. I mean, they're the ones that are walking in, buying a number one, and never coming back. Essentially, like, is that what's causing the drop off? Because it's a more casual fan, not as committed, so they're not putting things on a pull list or worrying about when they come in to get another issue if they ever do.
Yeah, like so the person that just comes in and gets the number one, they're causing some of
Yeah,
this attrition.
yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe like I'm just thinking out loud.
no. So then, and this is like the kind of the thought exercise I wanted to go to. So like, it definitely hurt. It definitely is hurting Marvel and DC and like Image and Boom. It hurts them, but not as much as like the smaller publishers like IDW. Now they're in the back of the catalog. You know, we love some IDW, but they're in the back of the catalog. Scout, Valiant, who you love or loved. You know, we still got love for Valiant, but it's not the
Loved,
same.
would love to love, hard to
Would love
love.
exactly hard to love. Would love to love. For me, AWA Publishing. I love AWA. They're just a lot of really solid creative teams, a lot of old Marvel heads in there, but they're a smaller publisher. They're in the back of the book. And most people don't flip to the back of the book and look back there.
Even I
So,
don't. I flip through those small press pages, but
yeah,
not closely. There's a
yeah,
few that I'm looking for.
yeah.
That I know, like, I look for Archie comics because they publish Sabrina comics, and I love Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So
Really?
yeah,
I did not know you liked
dude, that
Sabrina the
Netflix
Teenage
show
Witch.
got me, man. That Netflix show is so good.
I didn't
It's
know you
so
liked
good.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I don't like that hokey old show with
Melissa
Clarissa
Joan Hart,
explains it
yeah,
all.
Melissa
Yeah.
Joan Hart.
I don't
We
want
get
that
that.
Clarissa version of Sabrina. I'm talking about the Netflix show. That got
Was
me
it?
into the Sabrina comics.
Is it like dark? I never
Yeah.
watched it.
It's kind
Okay.
of dark. It's called The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and it's definitely a more adult take on Sabrina.
Okay.
Um, by the third episode, Satan is in the show.
Okay.
Not a version of, not a parallel, not a
Satan.
demon type. It is literally Satan walking
All right.
around, goat
Okay.
feet and legs and all. It is Satan. People are getting murdered in this show. Like, it's dark and it's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, like Archie, legendary because they have the Pacific Rim
Yeah.
license. So I look for them. IDW, just a handful. Valiant. Like, I'm not looking for everybody, so I skip over stuff probably that I might like, but
There's too much.
like
I mean, there's a lot to
Aftershock
read.
sometimes puts out cool
Yep.
stuff, but I don't always look real closely.
Ablaze. I've gotten some stuff from Ablaze, but yeah. Um. So yeah, it definitely hurts those publishers a little bit more. I think Marvel and DC have been able to maintain and reduce a little bit more attrition, especially with their events because there's so many tie-ins. I'm not so much a tie-in guy anymore. I don't really.
Me
I'm
neither.
reading that Axe Judgment Day, but I just get like the main issues. But like some people feel really invested in those events and they need to get all the tie-ins. So they get one or two tie-ins. Something happens in one of those books. They want to continue with the story. So that might reduce some attrition. And when you're like all in or like with this Axe event, it's tied into X-Men, tying directly into like the Amazing Spider-Man run that's been really good. You might be like, well, I'm getting Spider-Man. I read this one tie-in book. I might as well just keep going on with the main event.
Well,
I'm
yeah, I
not
mean
going to drop
that
that
was the
too.
whole strategy in the
That's
'90s of like
yeah.
constant line wide crossovers that were required reading to get you to buy other books.
So I think that's why it doesn't hurt Marvel and DC so much, but some of those other publishers, they get kind of
Well,
burned by the number one. You
I
don't
think
think
some of
so?
it too is that, I mean, Marvel and DC have established characters that are extremely well known and popular, and
And
other companies don't have that.
that's true. Yeah, no, 100%. Um, so I wanted to like pick your brain about like what is causing this, and I think we hit on one of the main ones. Obviously, would be we're all guilty of it. Of I'll just try the number one issue, pick it up, see if I like it. I have not. I don't do that a lot with. I don't buy every Image title I see or anything like that. But if it is something that interests me, like even this Amazing Spider-Man run that Zeb Wells, I was very skeptical on it, coming off of the previous like Amazing Spider-Man run, but I'm like, hey, let me try the first issue. And I really enjoyed it, but I didn't continue on with it. I'm like, I'll wait for the app. But I was dropping off with Batman, and then we were texting, and I'm like, oh crap, like Chip Zdarsky's gonna be writing Batman. Let me just get the number one issue and see how it is. Completely sucked me in, and I'm like I'm on board for that.
You've just
So like
you're trained by the Marvel and DC creative team short arc strategy. You're calling his first issue was like issue 128 or something, and you're calling it number one. Like, they got you. You're
I
indoctrinated.
mean, I don't know if they got me. I'm noticing that I don't need a complete run of something. I'm understanding that like good or bad or indifferent, like these companies, it's all mini series. Like everything is a mini series. Don't even worry about the number. It's all a mini series at this point. Everything is written in these little arcs. We've talked about it
Yep.
before. So whether it's issue number one, and this is why the constant renumbering drives me nuts, like whether it's issue number one or 128, it's like I don't know. It's really just all a mini series. It's all creative team. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
And
I
it's
just
funny too because the industry's always been that way. Creative teams would shuffle, but in the past, when that happened, the new creative team was beholden to what came before them.
That's the
And
difference.
at some
Yeah.
point, and maybe we need to blame the Image Boys back in the 90s when they started to, tilt the scales of power in favor of the creators. I think maybe the big publishers kind of lost their high ground in that regard. Maybe it's their fault we don't have tight continuity anymore. Like, when you trace it back far enough, you blame Todd McFarlane for this. Probably
Yeah.
he's kind of a jerk. He can take it.
What was I reading? Because like we do always say like there's no continuity or tight continuity. Like I feel like there is some continuity, but it's not. They're not. I wouldn't say they're beholden because they're definitely not beholden. Like I read, what was I reading? I was reading like Spider Man, and they did reference like Zeb Wells' arc, but not. That doesn't matter that you read that. No,
Yeah.
probably in the past, like it was like you said, beholden. I like that word. Like the previous arcs in writing really meant something. I would definitely agree that it's not that tight, but sometimes they do reference events in the past a little bit. So
Not enough for yours truly.
yeah, exactly.
That's sort
So
of where, we're pretty different in that regard, where you're accepting of that current landscape, and I am going, maybe I just don't read this stuff anymore.
you sound like me. You sound fatigued. You sound like me in the movie. We're like
Dude,
opposite.
I'm working through stuff that I didn't read before that I've always wanted to read.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
on
good.
volume 2. I'm about halfway through volume 2 of Revival. I'm still
You're
making
loving it,
my way
right?
through No Man's Land, 90s Batman stuff. Like, I'm
You're
having
loving
fun.
it.
I'm reading comics, and I'm reading new stuff too. It's just not from Marvel and DC.
Huh? So all right, I think we got trying up the number one. Waiting for the trade. I don't think this is a huge impact on like single issue sales. Nah, that's trade. The trade sales have definitely gone up. Like trades are like booming, like collected editions. That is where the industry is probably going towards is more collected editions. I guess I just can't
I don't
relate
see
that
it.
like
This is not
no.
the first time someone said this to me either, and I didn't believe it then, and I don't believe it now. The collected edition is fantastic, and some stuff I've only read in trade paperback, but I think there's always
Oh, this
going to
place.
be the monthly comic. I don't think you can get away from that.
All
I
right.
mean, it's hard enough selling me on a $4 comic. Now you're saying the only way I am reading Spider-Man is in like 5 to 6 month increments, and it's going to cost me $20 or $25. I'm not taking that kind of risk on something I might not like. You need to have that bite-sized monthly entry point for people to dip their toes in and see if they want to continue on. There's no way the industry can just go all trades. That would be signing its own death warrant. Too many people would no longer be able to afford the price of entry to try out something new.
cheaper on a month-to-month basis than it's cheaper to pay your phone off gradually than to buy it outright, is what you're saying, kind of like.
Sort of, yeah, but I'm not trying the phone for a small price and then deciding I don't want the phone anymore and not
Yeah,
on the hook. Like, you
not
know,
a one-to-one correlation, but
I have to
yes.
be able to buy an issue of the comic and try it out in a smaller bite-sized increment. And like original graphic novels and Marvel does these sporadically or DC, I don't buy those. No, there's no shot. I'm not spending $20, $30 on an original story that I might not even enjoy. Give it to me monthly so I can try it and see if I like it.
All right. So Dave agrees that the trade paperback is not contributing to attrition. What a
Uh, I mean, it could be, but I don't know if it's contributing in a way that is
significant.
significant or meaningful. Because like all that Valiant stuff from the 2012 relaunch, I bought all of it in trade paperback. I didn't buy a single issue monthly. 100% trade paperback. I'm guilty of it too. But I don't think the industry can go that way.
But you still had you at that time you still had a pull list of not Valiant comics, but you were still
I was still
pulling comic
spending
book. Yeah,
50
you
to
were
$60
still
a month on single issues. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So you were still pulling comic books.
Yep.
Okay. One that I think is contributing to attrition. I've been guilty of it. Variant covers.
Hmm.
I have tried to pitch in person, talking to guys at the comic store. I've seen guys come into the store and I've talked about a bunch of different series that I think are great. And for whatever reason, in some of these people's brains, they couldn't try out 10 amazing series. They would rather pull 10 amazing Spider-Man variant covers of the same issue.
That's insane.
Some people would rather pull, or maybe not all Spider-Man, but they would rather pull multiple variant covers than try other series out.
I don't get the variant. I've never understood the variant cover thing. Like,
I
I
get
don't
it
get
to
it.
I get it to a certain extent. If you like a certain artist and you really do, like I really like, I really like what's his face. I love this so much I don't even know his name, Dan Mora. So like, there's some sweet Dan Mora variants that they're doing. I'm
Yeah,
not
but I just
buying them
get
all,
that version. I'm not buying like every cover that comes out for a
but
comic that I like.
so if you have an amazing, when you were in a collector's mindset, when you had an amazing Spider-Man and there was a John Romita Jr. cover and he wasn't the main artist, you would just get that issue and not worry about cover A. You wouldn't care. You just get the
I just get whatever cover I like.
see that's to some collectors that would make their head explode. I'm like that now. It's taken me a long time that like I am a reader of this stuff. I'm never gonna sell this stuff. So like get the stuff you want. Don't worry about as a reader, it's a different mindset than of a collector.
Yeah.
So collectors, I mean, we have a friend who shall not be named. Uh, he loves
We've
Scotty
named him
Young.
plenty of times.
Yeah, he loves Scotty Young. So every time I see a Scotty Young cover, I buy a Scotty Young cover for him. I buy them all anytime I see them, and then I just like, here you go. I know you love this guy, so I understand it from that point of view. I don't understand getting multiple covers, like especially like one book in a month, getting 5 variant covers of Batman Spawn, dude. There's 20 variant covers for that book. There's someone who's going to buy all of those variant covers. It makes Dave's head hurt. He just can't handle it. But that's the industry though, man. Like that's the market. It's crazy. Audio listeners, I really wish you could see this video right now.
The things that I want are so simple, yet
Yeah.
seemingly so unattainable.
You just want a good story, man. You just want good
I
stories.
just want a good story with characters that I like.
Yeah.
In
It's
an
very
ongoing
simple.
series.
Yeah.
Where everything matters.
Not too many times a month. One time a month would be great, ideally.
Thank God for the massive verse right now.
Right? Just once a month would be great. But um same kind of mindset, but I've I've also heard of people, instead of like, oh, I'm gonna get this ongoing series, saying like, I don't read any ongoing series, I just read miniseries. But you pull miniseries every month, so isn't that just an ongoing series? When you pull all those, I'm not gonna read Amazing Spider-Man or X-Men, but I'm gonna pull all those flashback creator books that are 5-issue miniseries that are constantly going on. Guess what? You're reading an ongoing series, whether you know it or not. Financially, it is an ongoing series. So it's like that's, and if you break it down to people like that, it's just like, oh, you know what it comes down to? People ultimately have no concept of money. Like they don't think
We
of
have
things like
gone
that.
so fast into the customer is the problem, and I love it.
Okay, well, it's just like things
You have no concept of money, you fool.
things like that. Things like that. So maybe the customer is the problem. Maybe that's the thesis we're going to come from through this.
We went from
Uh,
what's happening with the consumer drop off from issue 1 to 2 to people fundamentally do not understand how money works.
they don't know how money works, and I don't. They shouldn't have to, but they don't understand the comic book industry, and I don't really expect people to.
Yeah.
You expect to show up to a comic shop and get what you want, and I get it, but it's just not that simple anymore. When you have variant covers, incentive covers, hot books, it's not that
How
simple.
many more potential contributing factors do you have on your
I have
list?
one more,
Okay.
and then and that's kind of my last kind of point. So ultimately, I think there are too many books, too many series just in general, too many that are published by definitely too many books that are published by the big two that are taking up way too much shelf space. And then you just add on Image and all the other publishers, boom, and all the little stuff in the back of the catalog. I just wanted to play a quick exercise with you really quick.
Okay.
DC, your favorite publisher. All right. The ongoing Superman titles right now. Son of Kal-El, Action Comics, and there was a Superman Space Age that I can remember that was kind of a miniseries. 3 books in
Cancel
the
them
Superman
all.
line. 3 books in the Superman line that Dave wants
Just
to cancel.
cancel them. That's not the exercise we're doing. I thought it was going to be what do we do with the books? Cancel them. We don't need them.
All right. Batman.
Hmm?
Detective Comics. Batman Urban Legends. The Batman one more bad days or whatever. I'm counting the characters. Nightwing is a Batman book. World's Finest we won't, because that could be a Superman or Batman book, so we won't count that one. There is a Robin book. There is a Tim Drake Robin book. There is a Batgirls book. There is is that all the ones I can think of off the top of my head that are ongoing right now? There's Catwoman. That's a Batman character. There's a Joker book. There's no other villain. I don't think there's any other. Well, I'm not. Well, if we really, there's that Batman GCPD, that Batman the Wall, or what, that blue. Yeah, there's that book. I mean, that's just me roughly off the top of our head.
That's
Was that
11 so far.
11 books, and I'm sure we missed some. And that those Batman one more days or whatever, they're for each villain. So I know, like in November, there's 2 of those books, let alone. So that's 11 Batman books. And we know that Batman is the leading, line driver of DC,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of content. You can't expect the average person to pick up all those books, especially in this economy with the price point that we're at now, where I looked up, it was like a chart of average cost, and it's like it's gone up $1 per kind of decade. So we're at $3.99, but most of those Batman books are $4.99. They all are. Batman's $4.99, Detectives $4.99. So we're paying $5 a book. People can't afford that. So that was kind of my last point of like why we have so much attrition. I don't really have a solution. I just wanted to talk about it. I wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
I have
And
actually have another idea as to what could be causing it,
yeah, sure.
and it's related to the title of this episode. And I think I think there could be some impact here from people that use the unlimited apps, DC Infinite, the digital impact
Yep.
here. Someone's going into the LCS. They grab
That's a
number
really
ones
good
when they
point.
come out. They like it, and they go, well, I have a Marvel Unlimited subscription, so I'll just wait 3 months, 6 months, and I'll read it for free on there.
That's a
They go
really
and buy a
good
bunch of
point.
number ones just to see what something is, find out if they like it, and then, maybe it's budgetary, maybe it's time, maybe it's whatever, but they go, I can just read this on my own schedule when it starts to hit the Unlimited app or the DC Infinite app. And they're really, it's kind of like, this is probably more relevant to me than to you, Mr. Married Man, but you meet somebody new and you text for a while and maybe you go out on one date and then they ghost you. You never hear from them again. And that's what some people might be doing to the LCS. They're just ghosting that LCS, man. They go in, they get that quick one hitter, see if I like it, and then they don't come back. They're reading digitally.
So my only counterpoint to that, and I've thought of that, but you've said it more eloquently. Why wouldn't you just wait for this stuff to hit Marvel Unlimited? Like, why are you getting the paper then?
I don't know, maybe
Just to
collect
throw to
number
try it out,
ones.
or
Who knows?
like
Yeah, maybe
if
you're
you go
just
into the comic store,
maybe
collect
you're.
number ones. Yeah,
I've done it before where my friend Eric, who used to live here, he had a pull list at a comic shop by where our band practiced. So before practice, we would go for him to get his pull list, and I would be with him. Sometimes I'd pick up a number one there, just off the shelf while I was waiting for him to look for, whatever else he was buying along with his pull list. I'd never go back for the rest of the issues because I'd add them to my pre-order pull list from Lone Star.
dirty. Okay, so you're still adding it to your Lone Star. I was like, that's dirty. I was like, why don't you just get a pull list at the LCS? Nah,
Yeah,
man.
man, I get 10% off at the LCS, 35% off from Lone Star, and I don't have to leave my house. That's the easiest decision for me to make.
Love it.
That comic shop was like 40 minutes from my house. Lone Star brings it to me.
I really wanted to do a topic on convenience, so maybe we should wrap this one up.
That one's gonna be a 5-minute episode.
There's I can't talk you out of it.
I'll never go back to the LCS, man, unless someone's showing up with a 40% discount and some other perks. There's no reason for me to waste the time and the gas to drive there and back to save less money for something that keeps costing more and more and more. It's a lose-lose situation for someone like me.
We can never ever revisit that conversation because it's like you're dug in. We had that conversation. It is dead and buried.
Financially speaking, there's no scenario where it makes sense for me to go to an LCS.
No, that's it.
And the dollars and cents are all I care about anymore. My time is worth more to me. That discount is worth more to me. I got enough friends. I don't need to go make friends at the LCS. Sorry, everybody. That probably makes me sound like a monster, but like, I don't need to chat up people at the LCS. I got friends to talk about comics with. In fact, I've got one really good friend to talk about comics with. So
and that's
good
enough.
that we record the conversations and publish them for the world to see and listen to. What more do you want from me?
This dude just cut a mega heel promo right now. He just
put me in the WWE.
Full Conor
I'm ready.
He went full. No, this is full. He went full Conor McGregor on the LCS right now.
I'd like to apologize.
I'd like to apologize to absolutely nobody. With that, kill it, Dave. End it. Wrap it up.
I mean, I don't have a wrap up plan for this one, so I mean, I don't think people like us could ever know the solution to this problem because we don't run a comic shop yet. Maybe someday that's in our future. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Maybe it's a problem we'll have to solve someday. But for now, I think these are some compelling reasons as to why that might be happening, and I think there's probably all the things you listed probably contribute in some way, whether large or small. But it's an interesting conundrum, and I think one of the things that is a recurring theme for us are these threats to the comic book hobby, and I think that's another threat right there. You start, as much as I rag on the LCS, I think it is necessary. You have to have some place for people to go to like try out a comic for the first time.
to build community, make friends, all the things you don't need.
Yeah, and then eventually, you know,
you wise
they
up.
age out. They find a good mail order company, and then and they turn into me. So I do think you probably still need the LCS. So this is definitely a problem that hopefully a solution presents itself for. But it was a good topic. I'm glad you.
I'm glad, man. I'm glad.
Pod.
Yeah, when I brought it up to you, we're like, "Are we qualified to talk about this?" I was like, "Thank you for
question.
Thank you for coming on the ride. I think it went much better than I thought it was going to." So
good. I'm glad. Well, with that being said, you can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are in the description of either the video on YouTube or on the audio pod if you're listening to this episode. Follow us there. I've been tweeting more in that account because Matt has been tagging me in his tweets. He's dragging me kicking and screaming to tweet in that account. So come find us on Twitter. Follow us there. We'll talk about comics. My name is Dave.
And I'm Matt.
We'll do this again in 7 days. Bye, everybody.
Peace.